Why do we need revival? I think that's been a question on a lot of people's minds these days, ever since the Asbury revival started. And just to be clear, this will probably be the last video I make about the Asbury revival, because honestly it feels like low-hanging fruit at this point, and I'm just gonna wait till it all shakes out to make a final opinion. But I do think it presents us an opportunity to zoom out for a second and talk about the greater idea of revival inside the evangelical church. I asked this question in my last video, but I'll ask it again. Why do we want revival so bad? What is it that the Western American evangelical church is looking to revive? I like that question because it causes us to look inside and say, well, if we're trying to revive something, that means something is wrong. So I ask again, what is it about the evangelical world that they believe needs fixing? Now, as an outsider looking in, I can look at a lot of things in the evangelical world that I think could use some work, but I honestly doubt we would see eye to eye on that. If you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you probably know by now that I think the evangelical world is kind of broken. I think for the most part, the church focuses on all the wrong things and misses out on serving the world the way Jesus called us to. So my first opinion is that I think the evangelicals are so desperate for a revival, they're so desperate for God to move because they refuse to move. Millions of kids go hungry every day in America. God, please send us revival. We have school shootings almost weekly now in America. God, send us revival. Culture wars, racial issues, ecological disasters. God, send us revival. See, I think a lot of times the evangelical world prays for revival when they should actually be putting their hands to things in the world. And I don't mean by like complaining or saying this is all the devil or the enemy and this is why we should pray. Nothing against prayer, but I also think the greater Christian community could move mountains if it wanted to. The single fact that the American church pulls in millions and millions and millions of dollars versus what they pump back into the community is a very large problem. But what we've done instead in the evangelical world is we said, well, paying staff, having buildings, lighting, social media directors, Facebook ads, Super Bowl ads, all of those things are where we choose to put our money and where we believe the church should be putting their money. But the problem is Jesus never commanded us to do any of those things. He called us to love our neighbors, feed the orphans, take care of the widows, and love even our enemies. But the problem in the evangelical world is we've gotten caught up in this self-serving cycle. And I hate to break it to you, but a real revival can't be self-serving. The real marker of revival can't just be we go to a building, sing songs, and feel good about the experience, regardless of how genuine the experience may be. And I think I need to pause for a second and make that clear. I don't want to take away from anyone's individual experience at this revival or any revival for that matter, because I do believe on an individual level we can have breakthroughs and revival with God. However, if we're talking about revival on a bigger scope, the corporate Christian community, it has to break beyond the barriers of what we're already doing. We're already having church, so more church isn't revival. We already have a multi-billion-dollar worship industry, so more music isn't the answer. There's nothing wrong with either of those things, but they're not revival in and of themselves, at least not on a corporate scale. We forget that Christianity is not meant for us to be comfortable, it's meant for us to break out of our comfort zones and love the world the way Jesus would, by caring for the sick, taking care of the orphan and the widow, by truly serving our communities. I do personally believe that the world is hurting and needs Jesus. But if the best we can do as far as revival is concerned is just sing more songs and put more people in an auditorium, then that's not going to cut it, because it's not revival unless it breaks outside of the boundaries that the church already has. Once again, not taking away from anyone's personal experience there, but for the most part, the people that are showing up at this revival are already Christians, already attend church, predominantly white evangelicals. You don't see other denominations jumping on board. You don't see the atheists or the agnostics very interested in what's happening. This revival is only self-serving the people who are already comfortable in church. So I'll say it again, if it doesn't break outside of that church bubble that we all know, it's not revival, it's just more church. And it doesn't matter if it's in a university campus, it doesn't matter if it's in a big church, it doesn't matter if it's in a small church, as long as it stays confined to the church bubble culture as we know it, it's not revival, it's just more church. Now, for the individuals there, that may be significant, but I guarantee you, for the people outside of the church bubble, it's not significant, and that's why it's not revival. Now, am I saying it can't turn into that? No, I have no idea what God and people can do. But as of now, in this moment, it looks like we're just doing more of the same. And I have to ask you, As a Christian who believes the world is broken, does the world really need more of the same from us? Or could it benefit from us breaking outside of that bubble, breaking outside of our comfort zone, and actually bringing something to the world of value? Obviously, the gospel in itself has value, but if our actions don't match the gospel, then we have nothing to offer. Now look, people are going to get out of this revival what they want to get. Some people are going to hate it just because they want to hate it. Some people are going to love it and think it's the next great awakening because they want to believe it is. But I think we really have to sit back and look at this thing zoomed out and say, what's really happening here? I'm glad it's significant for you if you chose to drive 5 hours to go to this extended chapel service. And I don't want to take away or diminish anything that may have happened for you in that particular service. However, how this impacts the rest of the world is really going to be the marker if it's revival or not. So I'll ask one more time. Is this revival, or are we just doing more of the same on a bigger level, but it's going to have very minimal impact on the people who need it the most, those outside of the church bubble?